Okay, hi everyone, good evening. Could I get another quick little sound check and we will begin. Sound good? And you should have slides up with the topic for tonight. All right, great. Holy cow, what are all you people doing here? I thought there'd be like 10 people here. What are all you people doing here? Hey, Dirk. All right, this will not take long. It's going to be like 25 minutes and then a chance for you to also ask any questions you want to. Wasting our time. Well, that's what I was going to say, but I didn't want to be rude to myself, so you know. All right, we'll just get right into it. I went to the time to do some slides here, and let's take a look at what we have. Here's what I'm going to go over real quick. Market close, that's a good idea. That's true. Some intro comments. What this is about, why I decided to hold this, a short little story, my story, the truth and the problems, retention, experience, repetition, even then, ... whatever that means, and an example for you, okay? No point in talking because it's right here in the slides. What this is about, I didn't know what to title this. Did not want this to come across like something that it is not, which is just a sarcastic comment to get you to come here to listen about why you should take seminars. That's not what this is about. I think most of you that are here know me a little bit, and that's not what this is about. It's not sarcastic. It's not a scam. There are real issues, and I just want to have a good, honest conversation about what the issues are for people. I put on the invite to this that you should attend this if you are brand new. If you have been around and you're debating if you want to get any kind of education. Also, I put on there that you should attend this if you spend over $70,000 learning how to trade and you don't know how to trade yet, which of course is supposed to be my attempt at humor. I used to ask in webinars how much people have spent, and I don't even want to do that because you'll be shocked at some of the numbers. I would routinely get people, you think everybody 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, 50. I've had people with $50,000. They said they've invested in learning this, which I think is a bit extreme. The issues are real, and one of the facts is that most people fail at this, but there's also the concept that many do not. So why do some fail and why do some not? I wrote notes to myself here because I threw this all together real quick, so let me make sure I have all my comments here. Hey, Richard, I'm still learning to trade. It doesn't feel good all the time. Well, you will find out an issue that is, what's sad to say is that when you get through the first half of the equation, which is what I'm really mostly talking about tonight, just learning what to do, there is a second half that affects people more so day trading than longer term investing, where you really do become your own enemy, and that's another issue that has to be dealt with. Yeah, it's a big part of what I try to get across to people. But let me check my notes here real quick. The reason I'm here for this honest conversation is because if you think I'm going to tell you that you take a couple classes and Monday you become rich, it doesn't work that way. I also don't want to give you the wrong impression the other way too far. It's the greatest job you can have, but you have to learn how to do it. I love what I do, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, but I've learned over the years, and for those of you who don't know me, I've been doing this a long time. I've been trading for 18 years, and for a good part of that time, I was with a bigger company, and then I went off on my own in last August. It's going to be a year almost already, which was the greatest thing I ever did. I should have done that a long time ago, but I was kind of afraid that running a business would interfere with my trading, interfere with teaching people, and it really hasn't. I probably was just being lazy about it, and I've been just having a great time. But there are some real issues people need to understand, and that's what today is for. So let's go to the next issue here. Why did I decide to have this talk? This came on me on just a whim a week ago. I never thought about even having a presentation called this, and I think it's important you understand why. My current seminar program members, and I call them program members, I'll talk about why, but I got upset when somebody sent me an email, believe it or not, and the email went something like this. It was somebody who attended the 3 seminars I do, and when he was done, he said, "Paul, thanks. that was great, that was fantastic. I learned A, B, C, and D. And, that was it. Just thrilled, loved it, but he listed what he learned. Why did I get mad? Why did I get mad at that? Because you need to understand why I got mad at that, because that is why I realized what people aren't getting and why I decided to have this. Why would I get mad that somebody would give me a beautiful email saying, great classes, loved it, and I learned these 6 things, whatever it was. Can anybody even imagine what it is? Because you'd have to be in my head to really understand, but I want to get you in my head a little bit. What would it be? I don't want to wait too long because I want to keep this to 30 minutes just so you're not here bored to death. Not internalizing it, Lee. I wasn't expecting more, Carlo. No, it was a nice email. But they're missing the point. He's missing the point. And then it made me think, out of all the people I have in my program, they don't all come back every class. So some do. I have some people that are, just been like 4 times in a row, and that's great. And I got to realize, people aren't getting this. This is not about coming and learning a set of facts and you walk away. You're not internalizing. You're not learning it. You're not really getting it. We'll get to some slides coming up that really get into the issue about one of the big problems is and why trading seminars do suck sometimes, because you don't ever learn it really. And to come to listen to one class and say you got 4 concepts, you're missing the whole big picture of what's going on. This is, it's like watching a Tiger Woods DVD on how to golf and saying, oh, I know how to golf. I'm going to go join the Pro Tour right now. It's not what it's about. You learn, I don't want to get ahead of myself on the slides, but there's no way that you learn more than 1/4 of the material the first time through it. I don't care if you've been trading or not. There's just no way you do. You don't get the real guts of it. You don't get the real nuts. You're just getting the basic stuff that everybody kind of knows. And you don't have any edge. You have to really understand it. It's not until you see it a few times and you live it and you experience it and you come back and you say, oh my gosh, now this all makes sense to me. What you said that first time about this is what you zoom down to find that and this, and it all makes so much sense to me now and I can use this. And they're just missing the point. And I wrote, if somebody's takes classes with me, correct, I wrote you like a full-page letter to everybody who takes classes saying, look, you need to come to these every single time you can over the next year. I don't care if you think you know it or not. And it's not about learning a couple things. It's about learning everything. It's about learning everything that I can teach you, not just a few little tidbits. Anybody here from class, right? You got that letter a week ago to all of you, right? So that is why, I was just reading your comments. Yeah, that's right, Dirk. I'm going to get to that. But that's why I said, hey, you know what? This needs to be said to everybody. Because I know there's a lot of people out there that have taken a class, or they read a book, or they watched a video, or they spent $20,000 and they're just not quite getting it yet. And I want to just make you understand, if nothing else, what it is you need to do to understand this. I'm going to give you my story real quick. This may be totally irrelevant, but it's where I get some of my concepts about what people need, want, do. It's why I won't even go there. I had sold a business like 20 years ago, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't really have enough to retire per se at all, not even really close, but I had some time off and some money and looked around at what to do. And I decided to get involved in the market. I had never been in the market before, never involved at all, didn't know a stock from a bond, literally at all, zero, zilch, nothing. Well, I'm telling, take a guess who got me involved in the market. You would never guess who got me involved in the market. You would never guess. It just goes to show that you can end up in good directions even when the reason you started was maybe for an ill-gotten purpose. But no. No, this is when I was on my own. Yeah, what was his name? The taxi driver, the options guy. Wade Cook. Yeah, Wade Cook. I heard a commercial by Wade Cook. And it just made all the sense in the world to me. He just said, the market on a good year goes up 10%. And he said, you know that every day their stocks go up 10%? Every week stocks go up 10%. I mean, they go up 10, 15, 20, they come back down 10, 15, 20. You sit there all year and you don't make any money. And it just made all the sense in the world to me. And I looked at stuff and I said, he's right. Why sit there all year for 10% when every day you can make 10%? I said, hey. And that stuck with me and it got me involved. Now, Wade Cook was a crook, and he wasn't a crook. I mean, he's out selling his stuff. And I never bought anything from him. I went to his free event and everything. And it's one of those things where the people run to the back in herds, and this is quite a long time ago, of course. But he got me interested, he got me involved, and I studied options on my own. I did everything on my own, and I studied options. And of course, I'm going to talk about this a little later, but options are not a strategy per se, like people refer to them as. They're not really a strategy in my mind. They're a way to play a strategy. Anyway, so you still needed to know a concept, whether it's charts or fundamentals or whatever it is. So I went out to learn this on my own. And I spent the better part of a year. Now, learning options is a piece of cake. I mean, that's just math, right? There's no art to learning options. There's nothing special about options. It's just math. That's all it is. But learning the underlying chart is what's tricky. And I thought I could teach that to myself. And I believed I did. It says right here, and this is why I taught it to myself. Where's my arrow? Do you see my arrow? Where's my arrow? Oh, yeah, you can see the arrow. I thought I was smart, and I was smart. I was pretty smart. I'm not going to be too modest. I'm not the smartest guy in the tool shed, but I'm not the dumbest. I figured I didn't need help. How hard could it be to understand if stocks are going up or down? I read and I studied all that I could get my hands on over 6 months. And I convinced myself that I had mastered it, right? I had convinced myself. Until what happened one day was I had more money at risk than I was comfortable with. And I had options on what were oil stocks. And I was underwater all week. And come Friday, guess what happened? They kind of reversed what they were doing, and I was back to break even Friday at 2 o'clock. So I had a big decision to make. Wasn't the best position. Do I just get out at break even and say, be happy? Or are they just going in my direction now and I'd be an idiot to get out of these now, right? So I looked at the charts for these things that I was in. And I looked at them and I stood. Right, yeah. Yeah, I know, Joe. And I looked at the charts and I took the monitor and I turned it upside down and looked at the charts, and I stood on my head and looked at the charts, and I walked around the room and looked at the charts. And what was the problem? Anybody know what the problem was? A big decision to make. Had to know if these things were going to, I don't remember if I wanted them to go up or down, but they had reversed to the point that I was break even. I was in some pain, and I had to decide if I should hang on or not. I looked at the charts, and what did I discover staring at those charts? Yeah, when it came down to it, Trader 8.8 has it there. When it came down to it, I didn't have a clue what I was doing looking at charts. I thought I did. I convinced myself I did. I made this and this up, and it went the right way, and I thought I was a genius. But when it came down to it, I realized I didn't even know what I was looking at. And I called Monday morning and signed up for a seminar. And when I called, I didn't ask how much it was. I didn't ask about any specials. All I asked was, when's the next one? Here's my credit card. Done. Because I realized I was being done. Now, that's my story. It's not everybody's story. But point of that is I had no expertise at all in the market. I didn't know anything. And for me, it was the best thing I ever did. But I have to tell you, though, it wasn't purely because the seminar was so great. I mean, I didn't really learn to trade, per se, from that one seminar. I was very determined to continue to work and develop things. I don't know if everybody does that necessarily. The facts are, most fail at day trading. That's just a fact. I don't know where the actual statistic is. I don't know where you would find it. If I was here telling you everybody succeeds at it, I'd probably have to back it up with some factual material. I don't really have it. I don't really know where the stats are. I'm not sure I've seen inaccurate, but I just know most people do. Because there's two hurdles you have to overcome to day trade. You have to understand the material, and you also have to overcome psychological issues. People probably do better long-term trading for themselves because you're devoid of the psychological issues, but they're still not great at it. Part of the problem is in the long term, I don't know how you define failing. You know, for a day trader, you open an account, your account goes broke, and you're done. You failed, right? That's an easy definition. But how do you succeed or fail if you're managing, you know, your longer term money? You're managing $100,000. It's the start of your savings, and you're down 5% that year. Did you fail? What if the market was down 10%? What if the average mutual fund was down 12%? Did you fail? You know what I mean? I don't know how you define that really, but I know most people are not terribly comfortable managing their own money longer term either. So there's definitely an issue out there. This is not some made up thing. It's definitely an issue that people have a hard time learning this. Funny thing also is, let me back up a slide. I just thought of this. Funny thing also is learning the market. Is this extremely difficult material? Is this like splitting atoms? Is this like something you need a 6-year degree to figure out or understand? Is this high mathematical computations? Is this literally like understanding the human genome? Or it's not. It really is not. I really, and I always hate to say this because I never want to sound demeaning at all, but it literally requires the intelligence of a 5th grader, just to coin the TV show, but it really is. So there is a definite problem here in the understanding, communication, and actual application of what is being done, right? I'm laughing at some of your comments there. The problems. All right, so let's get to some of the problems. Why is this such a problem? Number one, instructors matter, right? Can we all agree with that? Instructors matter. And this is going to vary a lot with just if you decide to learn where you learn from. I, for fun, about 3 years ago, I went to a brand new person trading introductory seminar by, what's the name of the place? Online Trading Academy. And I kind of felt like I was a underground spy or something, you know, because I was there, you know, at this introductory thing. It's an in-person thing that I went to, and you know, say it's fairly small room, just a half dozen people, and so this instructor comes in, showing us, you know, the magic of technical analysis, and this is a guy who was taught by somebody who was taught by somebody who was taught by somebody to teach a seminar, and I'm not sure he necessarily, like it says on the slide here, necessarily understood or knew or actually practiced some of the stuff he was teaching. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. I asked a couple of questions for fun, not being a smart aleck, but just, you know, trying to see kind of, hey, what does this guy know? He didn't know much. So, I mean, part of the problem is just simply your instructor to really communicate to the level that you need to understand. Keep in mind that it's doubtful that even if you take the seminar 7 times that you will get 100% of your teacher's knowledge. That's just the way it works. So you have to make sure the teacher has the huge depth of understanding. It's something they do every day to really be able to answer every single question with precision and understanding, and not just a glazed over, out of the can type of answer. Enough on that. You matter. Right? You matter. True? You matter. People are different. I've worked with many different people. I've had people that have told me, I have this, I have that. I'm very good visually. I'm not good visually. I can't read fast. I can't type fast. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's all about you, Dirk. It's all your fault. It's all... No, but seriously, it is part of the equation in that anybody, even myself, we don't adapt a special program for somebody who has more difficulty listening rather than seeing or whatever. It's, you know, here it is. Here's how we teach. It's on the internet. It's like this. It's like that. And somebody at a special pace or that needs to go slower, needs this or needs that, you're not necessarily going to get exactly what you need. It's something you have to consider and take into consideration. And there's the other side of the equation too. There's people that think they know too much. There's people who think they already kind of got this, and they're just here to, you know, see if they can pick up a couple tidbits. And the problem with that is if they're not making money like they want to, if they are making money like they want to, they're probably not taking a seminar, right? Would you agree? If you're making your living, you're probably not going to go take seminars. And if you are not making your money, it's because you're not successful. But then they come in with the attitude that they know what they're doing, and therefore they're not going to open their mind totally to what you're telling them. They're going to hang on to what they know and try and add your little bit of knowledge to what they know. Is what I'm saying make sense, folks? Because it's the other side of the equation. It's a big problem. I've seen this with a lot of people. A lot of people. Does that make sense? In other words, you have to rid your mind of what is wrong to accept what is right. And I'm not saying that there are 1,000 ways to make money in the market. I'm not saying that what I or what anyone says is the only way, but you have to have a successful way. And if you are locked in on unsuccessful methods and you refuse to accept that, you will never learn the right way. Right? Right, Glenn, yeah. It is a big problem. Let me tell you something for fun. Well, I'm going to get to it on a slide because you won't believe this. It's right. Oh, and it's hard. And again, see, you guys are just simply, you're making me happy because you're agreeing with tonight's theme, which is it's not easy to overcome the stuff you need to learn this stuff. You matter. We all learn differently. You don't have to be a genius. You really don't. That's not a requirement, but we all do learn differently. And I think that the diligence to learn this is lacking for a lot of people. Let me say that again. The diligence to really learn this, I think, is lacking for a lot of people. I think about what I was like and what I did. And I think about people today and a lot of questions I could ask. And I want to, I want to kind of say, why don't you go figure it out? How can you be sitting here trading for 6 months and you don't know what a market order is yet, or whatever it is? I mean, when I started, I don't want to give you like the, back in my day story, but there was nowhere to get help. there was nowhere to get help on any of this stuff. It was like, figure it out. It was literally sink or swim. And there's some good to that because if you didn't sink, you swam, Another small issue is what is being taught. The illusion is you need one class for stocks, one class for futures, another class for Forex, but technical analysis is all the same. It simply doesn't matter. I don't care what anybody's told you. Why are people told that? They're told that because if you're with a program and you've learned how to trade stocks, well, let me show you how to trade Forex. We'll sell you this other class on a Forex. It's all the same stuff. I mean, yes, I understand you call them different. There's pips and it's open 24 hours, but all that stuff can be learned on the internet in 20 minutes. The guts, your necessary tools, which are learning the language of charts, does not change from Forex to stocks to options to forget options, from Forex to stocks to whatever, to futures, to the market. It's all the same. Options do not replace technical analysis. Let me just talk on this real quickly too. As you know, I started up an options class, which is free to all of my seminar members. I didn't say, hey, got to pay more for the options class. No, I threw it into the program. I teach it twice a year. It's not with every single session because it doesn't really need to be. But options are not a strategy. They're not a new thing to learn. If you learn options, that's great. I like them. They're good. But you still have to understand where the underlying stock or whatever is going. Does that make sense? You don't just go out there and say, whoa, here's an option strategy. I'll just take this out in the blue sky. It doesn't work that way. You're playing an option on stock ABC going up or going down or staying sideways. Now, there's a lot of great things you can do with options, but they all skew the reward to risk. And that's why I went to teach this class and just threw it in the mix for free, because you shouldn't really be paying to learn math. I explain it well to people, but there's no real mastering of options to speak of. It's just understanding what's there, okay? Aren't options a thing to do instead of trading? No, they're not, Dirk. Well, I mean, you still need to understand the stock. That's what I mean, though. Let's say you're bullish on Microsoft, Dirk. You're bullish on Microsoft, right? You can go out and buy Microsoft. That's buying the stock. That's easy. You can also benefit from Microsoft moving up by using option combinations to do various things that will give you different reward to risk concepts. You could go deep in the money calls long, which would mimic owning the stock, but you could do it for less capital out front. You could sell puts on Microsoft, which would give you a very, very high probability trade, but of making a very limited amount of money. See, there's all kinds of different things you can do, but they all rely on Microsoft going up for you to make money. Now, there's different combinations that mean that Microsoft doesn't even have to go up and you can still make money. You can make money if Microsoft goes sideways. You can make money if Microsoft drops a little bit, but not too much. There's all kinds of things you can do. I'm talking really fast to get through this. But you still need to know where Microsoft's going. And yes, there is something called delta neutral strategies, which allegedly get rid of the need to understand the stock very much. But nevertheless, you will be adjusting those constantly. If you're expecting a stock to stay sideways, which is what you do in that case, you're going to be in trouble if it's moving up. You're going to be constantly adjusting and diminishing your profit. So no matter what you do, you want to understand where the underlying stock is moving. Okay? Yeah, Roger, every single day, I run a room, and everything I do is absolutely 100% recorded and done and sat right there. Come join the room for a week. Is that what I meant? Yes. Right, but you still need to read the chart, Dirk. Exactly. You still need to read the chart. Okay. And here's a big one of mine that I think is an issue for people that has been a peeve of mine to some extent, and that is, if you've ever heard me talk before, I could probably have 5 more seminars if I wanted to, but it would all be on what I call filler material. I've stripped things down to what I consider to be 3 seminars that teach what is need to be taught for long-term or short-term trading, period. Now the problem is, and again, this gets to like a bigger company thing, is they have to keep selling seminars. And you start selling information, and maybe good information, but you start watering down what it is you need to know. In other words, if you need to know, just make up a number, 20 things, you need to know them really well. Well, you should focus on those 20 things that make you money. Learning 40 more things, and the grand total of those things won't make 1% difference in your profitability, is not only wasting your time, but now it's watering down what you do. It's distracting you. I called it a scale of diminishing return. In other words, you're learning more and more stuff, but it actually is decreasing your profitability because you're becoming less and less sure what to focus on. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, everybody? Well, Steve, it's kind of what I said, but it's way beyond that. It's beyond higher leverage. There's other things you can do with them too. Yeah, okay. All right, so focusing on what you need to learn is another big thing. And to me, and again, you may not all agree with this because I've been teaching this for a long time, but to me, when you start throwing in tons of things that you just don't use, it confuses people. And I started to hear people, like if somebody new in the room will say, oh, I'm looking at this. And I'm like, well, what is that? Why are you looking at that? Why are you looking at volume weighted price? If something you feel gives you a little bit of an edge and you prove that to yourself, great. I'm not against, again, I'm not here to say you can't do something that works for you, but just randomly doing things because somebody said, hey, look at this, and you can't even tell me why you're using it. It's a problem. And that's the problem, and people don't even know why they're doing it. Just to make a point, on this last slide, I said, everything's the same. What is this? I know it's a chart. I know it's candlesticks, but what is this? Can anybody tell me what this is? What time frame is it? What type of chart is it? And what exactly is the name associated with it? No, it's not nothing, Dirk. Actually, it's everything. This is everything, not nothing. You have it exactly wrong. Does anybody know what this is? Could be anything on any time frame. That's right. That's right. This happens to be 5-minute chart of HPQ today. I think it's a 4-minute chart. I'm not even sure what it is. But the point is that this is all you need to understand. Now, naturally, no one chart will have you trading properly. But the combination of charts, you do need the different time frames. But my point is simply that it doesn't matter to learn what you need to learn. It doesn't matter if this is gold, the market itself, cotton futures. Doesn't matter. As long as it has volume, we look at these price frames and we look at them in terms of various time frames, usually 2 above and 1 below what we're trading, to get a good view of what we're doing. It doesn't matter, to be honest with you, it doesn't matter what moving averages you put on here or none at all. It also doesn't matter, by the way, if you're using a 4-minute chart and a 12-minute chart and a 22-minute chart. None of that really matters. We use some things for standards so we can all talk and look at the same stuff, but it really doesn't matter. If somebody's telling you that, oh, you need this moving average is the magic moving average for stocks or for Forex, and none of that, when you hear magic, you run. It's not true. Right, that's what we need to know, Dirk. We do need to see multiple time frames to analyze what's going on. But the point is we don't need to know what it is. But we do need to know the time frame. Maybe I should have left the time frame on this. But it's the bars interacting over various time frames that tell us what's going on in a very, very good way, oftentimes. And when it doesn't, we don't look at that trait. We go on to something else. Even if you're the best student in the world and I'm the best teacher in the world, initial retention of new material after 3 days is around 15%. Now, I went to research that for today, just because I've been saying that, and everybody quotes that, and it seems to be the common thing. And it's quoted. When I went to find the material on it, I got down this rabbit hole of everything I clicked on was people who were saying, well, that's not really true because you didn't use the magic bright system of learning. You know, they're all selling learning tools. So I gave up on trying to prove it, but I know for a fact that it's true just from teaching this stuff. So even if I'm great and you're smart and we get together and learn this, you're only going to walk away with 15% the first time, right? Now, naturally, it's hugely influenced by what's being taught and who's teaching it and who's listening and what interest you have in what's being taught, and also whether or not you're listening to a lecture, seeing slides, seeing it in practice, if you get to actually practice it hands-on, all that stuff influences how well you learn. IMHE, that means I made that up. It's in my humble experience. Teaching this, the learning curve is something like this, 10 to 15% the first time, and actually lower if you have experience. If you have experience, I think it takes you longer to learn this. 30 to 40% on the first repeat. In other words, the second time you take it. You're not even up to half. I'd bet my life on that. You're not even up to half the second time you hear the class. Some of you agree with that? Anybody ever taken classes? At least in technical analysis. Would you agree with that? That after 2 classes, you're probably... Of course, it's hard for you to say because you don't know what the whole total is. You don't know the total. So it's hard to say what you know if you don't know what the total is, right? But I'm here to tell you, you're not at half after 2 times, right? And I say 40 to 70% the third time, and maybe you get up to 70 to 90% the fourth time. Part of the problem to me also is people don't understand how much there is to learn. But if listening to it twice, people don't know half of it yet, obviously there's a lot to learn. And are you ready for this? Are you ready for this? I would shudder to think that anyone tries to day trade with less than 90% of what I teach. Who said that? I did. I say it all the time. Let me go back to this slide. 1 seminar, 10 to 15%. 2 seminars, 30 to 40. 3 seminars, 40 to 70. 4 seminars, 70 to 90. And I would shudder to think that anyone tries to trade with less than 90% of what I teach. Put those two together and what do you have? Put those 2 slides together and what do you have? You have the reason I'm sitting here talking to you. And by the way, if you're waiting for the big, okay, well, when's Paul going to drop it on us? I'm not. This is it. This is what we're talking about. I'm sorry if you're waiting for the magic pill or something I'm going to mail you or something. That the point of it simply is that if you're smart and if I'm going to teach you and if you're good, you have to be prepared to, in my view, go through at least 3 classes before you're really risking more than $10 on a trade. That's just, and obviously, there's absolutely no advantage benefit to me saying that, other than the fact that I'm just trying to be honest and tell you guys what's involved, right? I'd rather tell you, hey, by the second time, you're making $1 million. Some of you could be. I mean, some people do catch on quicker. They get the thing and they do it and they do well. But it depends on who you are. And knowing all this, I've tried to obviously with what I do, because obviously I run a trading room and I teach this. So what I've tried to do is using this knowledge is try to do the best I can to overcome all of this. That's why everywhere you see it referenced, I don't talk about teaching a seminar. I talk about a seminar program. What about, going back to this slide, I shudder to think that anyone tries to trade with less than 90% of what I teach. But I have experience, so I will learn faster. Well, it depends. But I would guess 95% chance it actually hurts you. Some of the worst traders are stockbrokers and market makers. I've worked with 2 market makers. One of them I'm still, kind of, I guess you'd almost call it friends with. We talk from time to time. He tells me very clearly what he does has nothing to do with day trading. He was the worst trader in the world. He took classes from me. He doesn't have a clue. He says no, none of the market makers would. What we do is completely different. Stockbrokers, they're not even close. So people that have experience in the market often are, to me, at a disadvantage. And if you have experience, whatever that means, if you're still losing money, what good is your experience, right? Experience person taking a class often simply means going back to the old way because it was never erased. Every time I teach a class, I have a slide somewhere toward the end that says something to the effect of, look, you took this class for a reason. And if Monday morning you go back to doing your same old stuff, and this is just a distant memory, you've wasted everything you've been here for, right? Personally, I had zero experience. I told you that. Who would I like to train? If my life depended on me training somebody to learn to trade in 3 months, who would I pick? Who would I pick? Well, as professions go, you're right. A pilot is, historically one of the best professions. Yeah, and doctors and lawyers are the absolute worst, without question. But you know who I would pick? It says the answer may shock you. It's not on the next slide. It's just the answer may shock you. But yeah, Roger knows. A 16-year-old video game player. Either a boy that doesn't have a girlfriend yet or a girl. 16-year-old video game player. Think about it. Open mind, no preconceived concepts. The ability to emotionally just start over. Whenever you get killed in a video game, you just hit the reset button, you start over again. And if you've been doing the right thing, you do the right thing again. And that's a skill that's lacking in a lot of adults. A seminar is worthless. Must be repeated. In between repeats, there must be practice. And here's the line that I like saying a lot too, is that the reason practice is important in between the seminars, getting out there and seeing the charts and seeing what we're talking about and experiencing it and seeing some failure and seeing some success, on paper initially, is because you have to know the question before you hear the answer. Does that make sense also, guys? Can some of you relate to that? There's only so much you can learn sitting in class the first time because you don't even know the questions. Answers to questions that you don't even have or you haven't asked will go right over your head. True? And it's another big reason why it's important to go about this the right way if you're going to do it. You also need to see examples of what is taught consistently is applied in real time, not just hand-selected examples. In other words, sure, in any class you have examples of charts that worked for the given strategy, but the truth of it is you can find examples of anything that works, anything. I could have my dog barked 4 times bullish strategy. Get a recording out, and when my dog barks 4 times, I could find a stock that went up during that time. Having a chart, but what you need to be able to see is, look, here's the strategy, and look, here it is. Here it is coming to life, and yes, it doesn't work all the time, but it works a lot. Look at these examples, and look why this one is a good example, and why this is a bad example, and this is how it applies, and this is where it does not apply. Okay? These are all the problems. What did I put on there? I insist that students retake several. I insist in quotes because I can't make them come, but retake several times, attend a practical application review day and a scan review night every seminar cycle, which is every 6 to 8 weeks. Maybe it's not for you. It's some work. You have to apply yourself to learn this stuff. But think about what people do to learn to be an accountant, a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, even a bricklayer. How much time do you spend learning to be a bricklayer? Way more than most people do learning to trade. True? Or at least in their perception. Isn't that true? For crying out loud, most people would spend more time getting instruction on being a McDonald's cashier than you would learning how to trade. Well, then Jackson, back me up, right? You probably, if you taught a bricklayer, you would probably spend more time with that person, and that person would be forced to undergo more training and apprenticeship before they were allowed to, on their own, build a house than the average person would ever spend trading. Would you agree with that? 4 years to be a good bricklayer. Jackson, would you take on an apprentice, and 3 weeks later, would you let him build your house? No way, right? There's no skill in the world that you learn by listening to some tapes over the weekend. But anyways. Yeah, right, Tom. You're right. People's perception is that, the market's easy. You buy low, sell high, blah, 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 blah. Even then, even if all the above is true, there's another issue. How do you know you're doing it right? got a great teacher, you're a smart person, you took it 3 times, you really understand the stuff, you take a couple trades and all of a sudden they're not working. They're not working. What do? I have to plug in my headset. What do? The trades aren't working. What's the problem? Did I do something wrong? See, the funny thing about trading is that, unfortunately, with trading, you can be doing it right and not necessarily making money. I mean, not over the course of a few trades. You can have good trades that don't work. You can have bad trades that do work. And it makes the self-evaluation concept difficult at times, no? You have to have a follow-up method besides your own review. You can't grade your own paper. I want to give you just a quick example of something, because I tried to think of good examples, and I came back to this one. And I kind of didn't want the blackjack one because I don't want to associate with gambling necessarily, but I don't really care if you do or not. I tried to think of, it's easy to think of examples in sports, but then you say, well, that's a physical thing, so I get that. But let me ask you this. If you take all the, if you read the blackjack books and you learn exactly when to take hits, not when to take hits, exactly what the odds are, so that you, with 100% accuracy, you never make a mistake at the blackjack table, right? Because there's exact mathematical odds, what you have, what the dealer has, when you take a hit or not. If you were to do that absolutely perfectly, what are your odds of winning a blackjack? Anybody know? An absolutely flawless player, which, by the way, you'd have to study quite a while to be a flawless player. You'd have to know every single time. If you have 16, dealer has 17, do you take a hit or not? You have 16, dealer has 12, do you take a hit or not? Now, what are percentage odds? Now, not including counting, that's my point trader, right? 48%. I think it's been pretty well determined that a perfect player has 48% odds. But then again, that only makes sense because the house makes money time after time. They have 52% odds. So what else do you need? You need an edge. If the best you can get is 48% knowing the material that's in the manual, guess what you need? You need an edge. You need to know how to count cards. You need to go to the next level. You need to get to a level beyond what that book is telling you. I don't know if it's a good example or not, but it is an example of, understanding something to a certain level, but yet it will only guarantee your failure. That's a good way to phrase that, right? To know the rules of blackjack perfectly, even if it took you 2 days to learn them and a week to memorize them, it would only guarantee failure in the long run. Naturally, anybody can beat out a few hands, an hour, a day, but in the long run, you lose. We equate that back to trading a minute. Let's say you're a fundamental trader. You look at fundamentals. If you go on the internet to do your fundamental trading, and you look at a research, and you look at an earnings report that just came out that 220 million people have read, do you have any edge? Do you have any odds? If you're just Joe Plumber turned trader and you go and read the earnings report and 220 million people have read that, do you have some kind of edge or odds that other people don't have? No. Yeah, but not a question of trust, don't trust numbers. The point is, okay, great. Remember, a long time ago, the secret to the market was information, right? You pay the big $350 commission because your broker gave you information that nobody had. Is that an issue today, folks? Is it hard to get information? No. It's the opposite problem. Is too much information, is knowing what to do with any of it. Apply that same thing now to technical analysis. You go out and you understand technical analysis to the level that anybody who reads a book and watches the basic videos and stuff gets it. And you know what? You're not going to have any edge. You're just going to be the same basic thing. Oh, support held. Oh, support didn't hold. Well, this technical analysis thing isn't all it's cut out to be because support didn't hold. Well, what you call support and what I call support, I have a feeling, are vastly different things. Holy cow. I'm sorry. I can't believe I've been talking this long. It feels like 20 minutes. My apologies. Last slide. Anyone can do this, but most don't. It's not for everyone. You can start off slow, learn while you have a job. You can long-term invest, and then you can day trade on the days you can. I think most of you know I have a long-term position letter for those of you that don't or can't day trade. And I've granted access to the people who sign up for the letter to the trading room, so that if you have a day a week or a day a month, you want to join us in the room, you subscribe to the letter, you get the long-term letter, and you can come in the room. So I did that for this very reason, because I don't want people cutting back on regular jobs to jump into day trading all in 1 week. You know, invest, you know, use the long-term trader letter to help you with your long-term investing, and then if you have that, you can come in the room any day you want to, anytime you want to. You have full privileges to do that. And you know, email me or go to the site. I don't think it's terribly clear on the site on some of that stuff, but you know, email me if you want. And also for a lot of you who haven't, it's disciplinedtradingstrategies.com. You're here, you don't even know the name of the company. Boy, I'm terrible at this. And also when you're there, go to if for some of you who haven't heard me before, there's a lot of great free information on the free stuff page. And before you run off, I have 2 movies I want to tell you about. I think it's kind of funny. There's a ton of information for you on the free stuff page. I'm happy to share with everybody for all the reasons I'm talking about, because you know there's instructional videos, there's Trade of the Week videos, and there's prior recordings. And if you're listening to me now and you haven't seen those, be sure to listen to prior event from Chart Reader to Trader Investor is one of my favorites. Yeah, that's the one in there that I think you really need to see. 2 movies, I think, maybe I did say books by mistake. 2 movies that I think are interesting. Naturally, you know, I'm not going to give you recommendations on books. There's so many out there, and the books I read were all from a while back, and there may be better ones out there. But anybody know the 2 movies I'd recommend? They're probably the most ridiculous movies you would ever tell somebody for trading that you would ever hear. Anybody even have a clue what they are? You know, you wouldn't even have a clue unless you heard me say it before. One of them is the movie called 21. I'll type it in there. Go rent it. There's only one reason to rent this. This is about the book Taking Down the House. And it's a book about the 6 MIT grads that take on Vegas, or well, whatever casinos. And there's one reason to see this movie, and I can't even describe to you when it comes, but there's a point in time when the main character who, you know, joined this group of NIT people, he was supposed to, you know, they're running this thing on the casino, and he goofed up, he started to lose, and he lost control. He lost control. And I don't know, it's 21, and I can't tell you exactly when it comes in the movie, but you have to just see him lose control. Because that's what happens to you as a trader sometimes, and you have to understand that and avoid it and not let it happen. And the second movie is called, ironically, it's not about numbers, but it's called The Number 23, the one with Jim Carrey. And that one, I don't even know if I can explain to you why I think that's a great trading movie, because it's the exact reason why so many people fail. The basic thing of the movie is that you'll see the number 23 everywhere if you look for it. You may not even get that one, but that's my advice on movies for what it's worth. All right, guys, I really apologize. It went 55 minutes. I thought it'd be 35 to 40 minutes. It went a little longer than I thought. I will call it a night, and if you have any questions, I will stay here as long as you want to answer them. I do mostly stocks, but I do a little futures, T. I think the only problem with trading futures, F, I think the only problem with only trading futures is it requires extreme patience, because you're trading one thing, right? There's like a setup, and again, you could be trading 15-minute chart, daily chart, 5-minute chart. You may have, you know, if you're trading a 5-minute chart, you have more opportunities, but there is a setup. And if you miss it or you don't like it, you're either forced to take a compromise setup or to not trade for a while, right? FT? So that's the only problem with so I like trading futures just in addition to doing something else. So you're not forced to make your living from futures. Now, that's my opinion. There's people that trade only futures. That's great. You know, that's just my take on it. Your question, okay, so what is the best and only tools we need? To trade the markets, you need to understand technical analysis, Z. So you need to have charts, a platform that brings you charts, and of course, when you're actually trading, you need to have then a broker, of course, that's a real-time type broker. Z, you would also enjoy then, first Friday before I teach classes, first half-day class is open to everybody. And I go over some of that stuff there, Z, so you would probably like that day quite a bit. You go over, a lot of the stuff you're probably going to want to ask about. But that's what you need to understand. There's a calendar, and you can see the next time. It's on a Friday. It's called Intro to Mastering Technical Analysis, and it's a 4-hour class that everyone will be invited to. If you're here, well, no, I invited everybody today, but make sure you're just a member of DTS, and you'll get the invite to that. And there'll be an email about it ahead of time, so you don't have to worry about missing it. Okay, did I answer your question? Is that what you meant? You do not need fundamental analysis. As a matter of fact, I would prohibit it. I think it is a detriment to try to look at or understand fundamental concepts or news or anyone else's opinion about anything regarding a specific stock or entity. You need to understand a chart and when actual buying or selling is coming in or leaving. Okay? Any other questions, anybody? I was expecting you guys to ask a lot. I was expecting to be done in 35 minutes, for very few people to be here and to have a lot of questions. I have the exact opposite in all three of those. Thanks, guys. As always, I'll let you know about the next event I'm doing. I don't think it's on the calendar right now, but there'll be something coming up. Oh, there is something coming up pretty soon. So I'll let you guys know by an email. Take care. Have a great evening.